Very strange. This is much better.
This is only for children. Oh, yes. Hello, everybody. I have the honor of welcoming you to the Grolier Poetry Workshop. My name is Carol Mankiti, and my husband was Ifeanyi Mankiti, who passed away 3 years ago. But now me and my 4 children own the store. So we welcome you, and you're in for a wonderful evening of these young poets. So, and there's, I think, about 30 or 40 people on Zoom right here. So welcome to Zoom people too. My husband always considered this a sacred place, because I don't think any other place would you find so much poetry from all over the world, except here. And it's here all in this tiny, wonderful, inspired place. So welcome.
Thank you, everybody, for coming out. Sorry. Alex, that laugh makes me feel much more comfortable. Thank you.
You got this.
Thank you for Grolier Bookstore. This place is beautiful. It's wonderful. Thank you so much for putting this on. This is a great spot, and it seems like it's only getting better. It's wonderful to be here. I'll be quick here for a second. I just want to say, thank you for being here tonight to hear the work of these 3 incredible young poets, Isabel Duarte-Gray, Darius Atefat-Peckham, and Tawanda Mulalu. They are Harvard poets, of course, but so much more than Harvard poets. But Harvard's definitely going to count them as Harvard poets. These last few years have been a strange years in the American and global experiment, and I don't have to list it off. It's been full of uncertainty, plagues, violence, and I don't want to put any additional pressure on these poets, but I do want to say here in front of witnesses that I'm counting on them all to save the world. It sounds like a joke, but I am really so happy that they're out there in the world. I think that their work is the kind of work that will keep that old ancient fire lit. And I know I feel calmer knowing that they're out there doing the difficult work. And it is difficult work to speak honestly about the way the world moves, and we in it is a very difficult thing to do. And so these 3 people have raised their hands to accept that task. Darius Atefat-Peckham is an Iranian-American poet and essayist. His work has appeared in Poem a Day, Indiana Review, the Florida Review, Shenandoah, the Georgia Review, and elsewhere. He is the author of the chapbook of poems, How Many Love Poems, from 7 Kitchens Press, and he currently studies English and Near Eastern languages and civilizations at Harvard. Here to speak to us about the consequences of being alive, Darius Atefat-Peckham.
No, that's my guy.
You're my guy. I feel really lucky to be here. Thank you, Grolier, and thank you, Tawanda and Isabel and Josh for doing this with me. And this room is filled with people that I love and admire. I feel really grateful that you're all here. So I'm going to read some poems from my chapbook, How Many Love Poems, and then some new work as well. I wrote this chapbook sort of during the COVID year in my room by myself, trying to figure out how and why and in what ways I love people. And so in the spirit of that, I think I'm going to read some love poems, both from this and from my thesis, which I'm working on now. Let's get right into it. This first poem's about my father. He fulfilled many roles for me growing up. He was a single father for a couple years, after my biological mother and my brother died in a car accident. I was 3 years old. And this is a love elegy to him. First love poem. I was always afraid of you, your angry grieving, your stomping of the house, and nighttime moaning, and frightening the dog. I was always afraid of ruin, so that once I took a report card and changed the fearful thing from D to B, a dissection. Botched it, of course, slashed a line through the heart of it, and decidedly stole into the nighttime storm lissomely as dirt. I'm always running away to return, treading back to the house and spying on you, alone, working at the dishes in the kitchen, your hands softening in the stream. You're always so compassionate. So when you interrupted my 8 p.m. cartoons, your hair dripping with the outside rain like Indiana Jones, I wondered what it was you've been trying to save. And when you held my ink streaked note to the sky and asked, "What is this?" I might have answered that it was my first love poem and might have led you to the other room to nurse the storm from your body. One of the ways in which I'm Iranian-American, one of the ways in which I attempt to commune with my heritage, with the mystery of both my mother and my heritage and my ancestry, is by learning Persian. Hello. I really lean into that starting to learn because languages are really hard. They're really, really hard. And it's been sort of a process of like oscillating between kind of grief and delight as like I fail and learn new things about my heritage and about where I come from. And even so, it is still incredibly daunting. So this is a poem about that. All bodies. As in every language, there are different words for all bodies of water. Somehow it still surprises me how many, like the goldfish who died one after another in the days leading up to Nowruz, the new year, whispering at their budding lips. There are rules. I don't know them yet. From what I can tell, Rud Khane is house of river. The ocean encompasses the seas. You will find fountains and springs in any suburban yard, boys' hands submerged within them. And you can become imprisoned in any window you see through. While kayaking, my small boat turns turtle in the rapids. Like a fish, I am betrayed by my own open mouth. For 14 days, I drown in my great-grandma's kitchen, and the sabzic grows backwards into itself. The rings of my scales sound outwards. My belly splits open the surface. I die like this, watching the people twirl together like water bugs, some heaven above me. A young boy wades over to watch me from the other side of the glass, eating myself to death. That poem, there are a lot of metaphorical livings and dyings in this poem. It really congregated my thinking as I was growing up, all the different ways that one might live or die or live past death, things like that. So in language learning, there is that feeling, I think. This next one is called Old Man Face. I write all over the house, knuckles working as if at a stitch, to write a wrought iron gate into the grass of the yard. Drag my fingers along the bars, wet from the half rain, running them through like swords. This morning, I am in Iran. I am the old man who often thrusts his furious head through the shutter of my face, yelling at boys in the lawn, easily switching between languages like candies. Bibi asks me if I understood. You understood? In line at the grocery store, at a restaurant, in front of many laughing mouths that hold language easily as an upturned boat. And the world slows. And I have to say no. Admit as her smile fades that I laughed for her wrinkle of eyes I thought she could no longer see from. Lovely and dark and untranslatable, the sleepy eyes of at least 1,000 strays in Tehran mumble that faraway language. The soul man before them reaches through the gate like a prophet, offering sweet nothings, offering something to eat, the skin of my ear to her mouth, like a bully's wet finger, like absolution. Yeah, that's actually based on like a face that I used to make to my grandmother that always made her laugh.
Can we see it?
Yeah, it's like it's pretty good. It's probably my best joke actually. But yeah, it never failed to make her laugh, and I was thinking about how I could do that without saying anything at any moment, just like attack her with laughter. So so this next one's called Rick Steves Iran. I don't know if you guys know Rick Steves. I love Rick Steves. Like in love. This is a love poem to Rick Steves, actually. And he's a travel writer and TV personality. He kind of does a lot of YouTube videos, and he's like super sincere and genuine. He goes to all these different places, and he's actually like an hour-long special in Iran. And he was obviously like terrified the whole time, but like trying to hold it in. So it made me like fall in love with him, actually. So it's called Rick Steves Iran. A farmer slings a rock to scare a bird from his barley, and I wish I could teach you to say, "Dastit dar nakone." I hope your hand doesn't hurt. I wish I could be your best friend, stay by your side, noticing neutrally the Magbad Israel signs in the splendor of Esfahan's largest mosque. Holy geometers dip their camo caps in Friday prayer and shake hands. A family picnics on the grave sites of their sons made martyrs. You ask thoughtful questions of everyone you meet. Don't you wish America and Iran could be friends? How do you find a boy? Can I shake your hand? Can I shake his hand for you? Your slight lisp, your slow rhythmic speaking, knuckles knit together as you ask your guide if Sunnis and Shiites share heaven. And of course they do. And of course you know that. In your body, you design a church inside a mosque, inside a synagogue. You place strings of saffron on your tongue and ask, "Am I red?" to the delight of the Bazari. You are now the soft yellow of early morning sun, and Iran glows from inside you. I wish I could be, if only for a moment, the motorcyclist sitting in front of you in the midday traffic, your hands clasped tightly around my waist, trusting me to navigate, to keep you balanced, to take you where you need to go, and somewhat safely, as you think about the loose fit of your helmet, the fear that still exists here, that you can't show on your face, on camera, thinking of your brain splattered across the side of a passing bus or dripping down the front of a Tehran mural. I wish to be both you and the cyclist, as I hop off my bike and thank me, shake my hands together, kiss all four of my cheeks. I push my glasses up from the gentle slope of my nose so that I can see myself better. I head off into the throng of traffic as I stand there on the curb, watching me go. I live to breathe another day, to say hello. Next poem is called Navi the Wrestler. It's after the imposed double execution of a professional wrestler, Navi Atefat-Peckham, for peacefully protesting the Iranian government in 2018. I die twice, once just to get there, once to lay myself down, head submerged in the Caspian, receive 74 new veins across my legs, sigh to bleed a garden. I die with reassurance, the eyes of my American parents boring into their American son. They aren't kind to our citizens there. I grow out my beard and build my legs strong for carrying. The roots of myself unfurl, steady for the bell. I roll my R's, growl in the bubble of my throat. I prick Navid's neck with my lashes. I lie cold in my cell. And as I fall into sleep, I remind myself that to die in one country, I must do so in the next. So a lot of these poems are about masculinity. I've been very interested in masculinity since I was little because of what I mentioned earlier. My dad was both my dad and my mom and my best friend. He still is. And still, I'd say like the best thing that's ever happened to me was that he got remarried, so that he didn't have to be my mom anymore. But he was a good mom also. But that's my stepmom, Rachel, who's probably listening, and she's wonderful and amazing. Both of them are poets, so that's how I happened. Yeah, so this one's from a longer sequence. It's called Book of Kin, an Iranian-American anthology. And it's part of my thesis, so I wanted to read a little bit of it. I wonder if God is shaking too. It is only when he is shipwrecked on shore that he knows, when he watches the birds take flight over open ocean. It's the way his eye takes flight to follow them that makes him feel somewhat like a god, and not. How to begin with mystery and end with wish. Our shells breaking open the surface like eyes winking all around him, making him think of smiles, how they break and grow open the face. The quiet smile one makes when listening to a loved one on the phone or to music, or even quieter when one is consoling or being consoled, love from afar. The way the architects and painters made it so that when you enter, the eye travels up. This impulse remains. Every time a Nakhali opens their worn and weathered mouth to recite our nation's epic, it's changed. Nation of unbelievers, nation of the dead and damned, nation of dirt and dust. So what if his eye kept traveling? So what if he loves a man or holds a girl's hand in the road? If he gets close to God, can he get closer to his countries, or must he stay a vessel? God attacking his memories like spirits. If his eye turns the corner, sinks with his love until it's out of sight, then could the mouth of his ear resonate spirit like that chamber bombed open to the sky? The boy seeking, wishing to live in the brief moment of silence between a beloved's imperfect teeth. Like the conch shell, he dips his body to again and again on the beach, this whispering wish of ocean, kosh, kosh, kosh. Kosh is a word that means wish in Persian. And poets use it a lot at the beginning of lines in Farsi. This is the final poem. So thank you all for listening to me. I really appreciate that you're here, and we have amazing poetry coming up. Like two people who just every time I give them a poem to read, they tell me something about myself I didn't know. It's insane. This is my dream reading. This is why I'm nervous, but this is called This Is Not the End of the World. Good reminder. In dreams, I'm slowly and methodically beating a man senseless, or trying to. We all are, all the time. I write the best love poems to the sound of bird calls. Only when I'm far away can I imagine you, breathing quietly and dreaming, moving your body a bit. You told me your father would like me with a firm handshake, our mighty paws woven together like men. At the last moment, meeting him, my palm maneuvered like a plane into a building, but this is not the end of the world. I will walk further into the music of a few birds and their mating calls to one another before the morning storm. I will forever jog towards that boy on the park path, jumping into puddles and out of them, as if traversing hundreds of feet of oceans, re-entering the sky and earth. I will always lose, become suddenly like a bullet fired underwater. The wind will work hard at my spine. The joy will make my throat burn with the taste of metal, of my mother's throat. Only then will I raise my arms the way runners do at the end of a marathon, the way dancers do at the end of dances, my lips working silently to let go a memory of my father. The sole time his hand rose and fell, he spanked me. I was 4. Through all this, I've learned only that distance is impossible. At the end of the world, my hands and my body will become limp and feverish, my fist languid as a flower. It will brush against the other man's chin. At the end of the world, I will always be saving somebody. And how wonderful that the first time I met your father, my fingers rested on the tops of his like a lady's at a ball asking politely for a dance.
Right.
That's great. Thank you, Darius. Poems call me. I think the right way to do this would be like if you read and then I come up afterwards and introduce you. That might work better. Isabel Duarte-Gray was born in Oakland, California, and raised in a trailer in Western Kentucky. She received her doctorate from Harvard, where she studied Latinx literature, ecocriticism, and poetry. Her first collection, Even Shorn, debuted with Sarabande books. She now teaches at Tawanda University of the South. And here to speak to us from Forever and the Whirlwind, Isabel Duarte-Gray.
Short. Okay. So listening to you, Darius, the thing that brings me so much joy about reading with both of you is that I was there for the creation of a lot of your poems. We were all in workshop together and I got to see, like, every time you started one, I was like, oh, right, I was there for that that weird genesis, that amazing moment in which like a little beak peeked out of a shell, like that scene in Jurassic Park. So I'm gonna read from Even Shorn first. I'm gonna do 4 from that, from my first book, and then I have a project going tentatively called Groom that I'm in the middle of, and I'll try to read 4 new poems from that. Let's see. Let's hope my Southern accent sounds correct. I've been in Tennessee for a minute, so I'm hoping it's that it's still here. I think the context you might want for these poems, the one I'm about to read is told from the point of view of my grandmother, who died quite a long time ago. She had 10 siblings, and they grew up as tobacco tenant farmers in rural Kentucky, and they moved around quite a bit. So this one is called A Portion for Foxes. When we was little, there was 10 of us, fish and loaves, the shoes for Sundays. Even then, the shoes would wear the look of elder sister's feet, run down the line so far the cow ate grass and clear another century. If there weren't work, Mama turned us out to keep the buttermilk from spilling, which was fair as we was like a band of jays busking gossip for the devil. Not the type to turn out drowned or crushed beneath a barn beam or like some other mother's kid. Wilma was the meanest and the best of us. She told us gullibles of dragonflies, thin and blue, they sewed your fingers up together. And she taught us necessary things like how to borrow dogs' dreams using Pop's old hold-up hat. She told us you could catch a thief by driving nails up in his footprints, waiting good to see a man who just now caught a limp, which we all thought was strange on account of Wilma taught us no one here in Dacusburg would lock their doors, besides, of course, the bootleggers and the bank. When a house was empty, she would take us calling where we knew there lived the billowingest church hats in their nests, which was how we learned the touch of shoes still had their color and of rings we didn't tie ourselves from June grass and clover. Wilma hushed up Faye the littlest with her finest words of murder, and the rest of us bribed with wisps of perfume. Was the only thing we stole from them, the smell of owning something better than the hard bones of our feet. Dacusburg, Kentucky. That's true, by the way. My great aunt Wilma used to break into people's houses and literally just try on their clothes and then disappear with multiple siblings. Apparently, that was just a thing that they did for fun. Fun is limited in Kentucky, okay? This one, appropriately enough, is called Tennessee Valley Authority. It's about, obviously, when TVA, I come from a place called Land Between the Lakes.
Oh my God, that's where my whole family.
Wait, you're from,
Both sides.
yeah, I'm from Kuttawa, Loudoun County. Oh, you're from Paducah? Oh, okay. We're gonna talk about this another time. So anyway, TVA flooded this area. And among the other things that had to happen, I believe my great grandfather had to dig up a couple of his wives who had already died by that point, and he like chose which wives to dig. He wasn't a great person. Anyway, this one's called TVA. Oh, the other detail you might want to know is that I'm referring to something called a corpse boat, and that's nothing cool. What it was is that my stepfather used to like got a deal on a boat. He like has never had a bank account and he's never paid taxes, which I now admitted in public. But he got a deal on a boat that used to be used to fish corpses out of the lake. All right. You know what? We could fish out of it. It was fine. Okay, Tennessee Valley Authority. The corpse boat split the lilies in a black and heaving ribbon in a final day on earth. This lake ain't lake the way a god shapes lakes with claws of ice. A living man remembers when this hole was not a place of many waters, but a city drowned in just a day. Underneath the lilies, can't you see the roofs where finches threw a nest for sowing panic grass and babies? There was brides made in this place where herons sweep at corners. Mudcats breed here now. They're knowing whiskers rooted. Home, the only thing to root here in these rooms we cannot save. Kuttawa, Kentucky. Okay. All right, since I'm wearing a lot of snakes because I'm a minimalist, I decided to go with something called Hognose Snake. This is kind of a dark one. When I was in my third year in graduate school at Harvard, one of my cousins was found dead in a puddle of runoff, and we still don't know, it was like in the dark of January, and we still don't know how she ended up there, if someone did it to her, if she did it to herself, it's very unclear. So this is about her. Hognose snake. The hognose snake has two lines of defense to cast her backbone tall like there's spot left in her, or to feign objection, bear the mildew of her belly, furl her tongue into a beggar's cup. The hognose thrills her nose to rotting sycamore leaf. The hawk will finger frets upon the limb. To be contemptible is hers, the final pleasure of the cornered thing. To face together mirrors, make a laugh in what they see, as a mother touches flame to the living room carpet, to know its broadest possibility, its godlike shimmer. Dresden, Tennessee. And this one, I did a lot of research for, and I'm just gonna give it to you. It's the only one I don't have to do accented from this book. Okay, to field dress a doe. Step 1, begin with the feel of a desecration. Cut below her udder, around the anus, and remove, wary not to pierce the bladder. This will feel you've killed her twice. Step 2, split the muscle of the pelvis. Open her to the rasp of broom sedge. Step 3, ease your knife through the muscle wall. Draw her skin like a warm blood curtain to shield her guts from rupture. Draw until you find the breastbone. Step 4, by now, the birds are calling to the likelihood of morning. Step 5, do not spare her cape for beauty. Slice to the chin and loose what you find. Step 6, with a toothed blade, split her pelvic bone, sapling-like and supple. Step 7, drag from the windpipe down, removing all that was inside her in as few strokes as you can. Step 8, if there is a child, place the heart into her hands. Tell her this is necessary. Step 9, turn her over, across a log if you find one, across an oak if you find one. Step 10, the oak moss holds her blood. it scents the wood with the stone weight of your hunger. Okay. So this is a very different project. I'm trying to figure out how to say it as efficiently as possible. This book is about sexual violence, and it's about sexual violence I experienced as a child in Kentucky. The long and short of it is that there was a teacher in my town who groomed a large number of female students. I don't know exactly how many. And when we tried to report him for this, the superintendent would not do it, and he had a lawyer protect him. And since then, that superintendent is now mayor of our hometown, and that lawyer served on the Kentucky Supreme Court. So the book, more generally, is about how we have no language for sexual violence. If you talk about rape, people go silent. They don't know what to say. If you talk about the ubiquity of rape, they also don't know what to say. So my thought is that sexual violence is present ubiquitously and yet never spoken about because it's a form of epistemic violence. So I want to talk about the language that we might try to use to experience this violence. The first half of the book is all epistolary, so that's what we're looking at right now. Dear, I cut off the piece of me you made. It wriggled past my heels to the bushes, fed on skinks, slept down the hole it claimed from the king snake in exile, outgrew itself, married to another hate, wedding cake in a cinder block basement, enrolled in night school, found a 2-bedroom fight over the sink catch, lengthened to a throttling strength and unmade its father, you or me. Stowaway on the hayrick, waiting to lame your children. I think this one speaks for itself, so I'll just keep going. Dear, there are 2 orders of living Americans, those with lingering doubts about the murder of John Benet Ramsey and those without. When you're child-sized, the grocery checkout sells the postmortem contents of a 6-year-old stomach at eye level, beside the other afterthoughts, the globe, the star, the Snickers, the juicy fruit. What is a child, if not a ransom note that babbles on? I've wasted more years than she had years, and all told, she racked up more dead than alive. Pageant, from the word pagina, page, the mystery cycle, when old Europe pantomimes the word. Let us circulate the mystery of virginity. Let us remake a certainty of violence. Dear, remember days of our lives? Marlena was possessed by Satan and levitated, too evil to touch her 1,000 thread count sheets. You said it was just her body. Marlena was gone. Was it obvious by the yellow contacts and the pack-a-day rasp of a woman who needs her hands busy? Is it something done to you? Just inhale when it comes your turn. God's plan piles too high for one generation, so I witch dunk another benzo in this plastic cup. I can hope for the best. The lifetimes we've lived between one drag and the next. What's the good in staying young when I never will be? Show me a gentle girl, I'll steal her face a minute. And what's the good in loving, trashing, dredging, bloating, burning just one sorry body? Like that alone would end creation. Dear, if I go to heaven, I want to ask, is there such thing as a tasteful lawn ornament? How does one improve a grass rhombus to such hue as to declare oneself bound by contract to poison all surrounding flora until Scott Pruitt's O-face leaks Scott Peterson's crocodile tears? A second question I'm saving is, when is pain real? Does it require 2 persons? one to throw and one to sign the affidavit? Is pain a compact between one person's body and the willingness of anybody else to see it?
Thank you, Isabel. That was great. You're welcome. Tawanda Mulalu was born in Gaborone, Botswana. He is the author of Nearness and Please Make Me Pretty, I Don't Want to Die from Princeton University Press. His poems appear or are forthcoming in Brittle Paper, Lana Turner, Lawaway, the New England Review, the Paris Review, the Public Space, and elsewhere. He means Ken in Street Fighter. I didn't know that, all right. And he's here tonight to speak to us of what the human can and will be from here on in.
Yeah.
This is dope. Like I lived right across at Adam's house for like 3 out of my 4 years of college, and pretty much every class I would go to that I could make it to, I'd walk past Grolier and just dream. And to be here amongst so many of like my friends, former workshop mates, like my fucking teachers, it's so dope. I'm very honored and pleased. I'm just so glad to be here. Thank you so much for coming. It's a little hard to describe this book. I don't want to just say vibes. Like I wrote it when I was really down bad. We all got kicked off campus. That was like my final semester. The big Black Lives Matter protests were happening and it felt like the world was ending. I was going through this like horribly bad breakup. And the only thing I could do was just write. But I also ended up teaching kids. And so a bunch of the kids that I worked with, 3rd graders, appear in the poems. And, you know, I just start feeling better again because it's kind of hard to be moody around kids. It's so cool. So I'm very happy to read these poems too. They're structured the book is structured in 4 seasons and it begins in the summer. But before that, I wanted to read the epigraph of the book, which is from one of my favorite poems. It's called Song of Lawilo. It's an epic Ugandan poem, and the poet's name is Okopitek. Let me dance before you, my love. Let me show you the wealth in your house. Oko, my husband, son of the bowl, let no one uproot the pumpkin. These poems are from summer. Move with me, I said to my brain before it startled itself into a mind. I mind myself becoming this person, but without that mind in this world, then there is no world of me. Then there's old myths of me, and they're stuck now inside me. Then sitting in churches in my childhood, that's where I learned my looking over other people's shoulders. You did not intend. It happened in that room. It did not stay in that room. It was as if it were not with me. Open that creamy book. Notice now orangutans and all of us, chimpanzees and some of us, gorillas and half of us, and the other half, dolphins. Somehow we all swim. But oh, I love how dolphins swim, how the blood screams at them and the white moon pulls tides with its myths. And on playgrounds, I so badly wanted to be a dolphin. Still my fur, how mightily it weighs me as him. Were I the son of God and not of my gorilla, would the dolphin still be closest to God? And the churches still haven't been struck by lightning, then my country still doesn't have jungles or oceans. Where do we come from? I don't know that strange country. Never heard of her, never will. This next poem is called Elegy. I've bitten down on the chameleon in my throat. He burst into a single color, predictably that lacerated into what white people have since called sincere, and quite pained. And Black people continued with their day, never having needed to pretend rainbows to sing. I am flooded with other people's selves, their quiet traumas, their various walking speeds across the river. I've seen someone walk on water. Nor could I blame my father for an event horizon he just happened to have ejaculated me into. Nor could I blame my mother for then having characterized me as ungrateful for the invitation to this party. 90s kids be like, by the time we showed up, all the alcohol was gone. They drowned. My turn-ons include watching capital explode into non-imagination, initially my personal finances, yes, and now gross domestic products, the ozone layer, democracies. It's been a good season these past few years. Whereas for those without a sense of humor, the idea of skeletons pole dancing is not appealing. Whereas for those with a sense of humor, the reality of systematic death is also not appealing. Whereas I do not know upon which ground I stand, but it looks a little parched. Return to the subject of my throat with the additional question of my ownership. If I pay my taxes, do I belong to myself, or do I? You have not attempted to wave away original sin of social contract theory? I mean, all genders get along if someone else suffers for peace, says every human arrangement of tar, toil, and torture. It's a pretty skyline. In a plane that thunders towards another human arrangement, they stuff me in economy. There is always someone who works harder than me. There is always someone who is more of a morning person. There is always someone who isn't as pretty as you. I really wish I didn't bring the hardback to read because I can't bend it, and I just feel like really awkward with these things that don't bend. Anyways, fall section now. This poem I'm about to read, I actually wrote it in Josh's workshop, which wasn't that long ago, but it feels like an eternity. Darius was there. It was a good time. It's called 7:30 and afflicted with such lowness, so often, no longer sudden, just low. Dark sunset, small orange left. The sky is a stupid canvas. It's all formless. Good things have form. That's what skeletons are for. Not for cradling falls from towers. Certainly not that, nor the crunch of cannibalism when one bites their nails, no. Lower than, like a mole. I'm digging deeper. Like belly buttons, Plato's there. He hates me, hates poets, I'm banished. Lower than, so put on shoes. Walk with each low foot until sidewalks become mountains. And so the panting follows something real, actually real. Real as the thickening of a child's bones from mash to marrow to footsteps, real as the fact of it, as simple as an apple does with its sugars, real as going outside being proud of myself for trying. But where are the apples? I thought they'd be apples. I'm going to read a bonus poem. I was going to read two from each section, but I really want to read this Hamlet Tries Prozac poem. Because Isabel saw it when we were in workshop together with Joey, and this was like, oh God, I can't believe I brought this to. Anyway, Hamlet tries Prozac. Hamlet tries it, and suddenly the firmament's floating. He takes Ophelia out on a date, says he's sorry for being a dick. And they make faces at each other over a steak that's too well done, but he doesn't berate the waiter about it. He just chews the steak, and Ophelia dives into the ribs, sticky fingers playing over the bones with a newfound sense of comfort. Later, when they take a bath together, she'll look at his ribs and poke at them, pretend that in between them flowers might spring out, that imagining this might make the next bit a bit easier. He's gentle, which she appreciates, but it doesn't make up for his pale skinniness. He's sleeping now, and she's looking at his ribs, then presses a finger between two of her own, finds no difference. This poem ends the fall section. It's called Near It, and I wrote it shortly after hanging out with my kids on the playground during recess. It was dark and terrible, but they seemed happy. And so they made me happy by extension. Please no longer the need to be harmed by colors. The streets in this continent change as easy as fingernails latching onto me when you breathe like this. Press hard. Your skin bruises easy as leaves. I watch leaves cold now while lonely cars glide past the playground. No matter this light that flees early, I allow myself this. I amass a nest of smaller rays. The birds do their final gathering, and I am gone again, returning for the rest of this day. Here, no tree by this fence, no tree by this fence, by this road. Gravel intermingles above soil with newer reds revealing themselves as leaving to beneath roots. Shall I press myself against brick, pretend, yes, that I was here, will here, beneath feet, beneath brick, beneath leaves above you, will hear all along the mass of days in which another dry conflagration falls into this box of tissues and sanitizer, leaves in my kids' hands, finally quiet in the classroom. Masks. I clean their hands and think again of their minds, stumbling across mathematics. Imagine the soft marvel of another planet where other minds do not stumble, cannot marvel, cannot I, but only sing. One song, and I am the last thought on earth, the fantasy as she births 4 hands. I am not dying. I am not immediately dying, or I do not know that I will. For the backache, the doctors scan my heart and find my right ventricle might be thicker than it should be. The left ventricle pumps oxygenated blood to the body. I am so close to safety. I could confirm it now. In my chest, a dream gone, breathing. Before I get to the second half of the book with the winter and spring section, I neglected to say that the book is dedicated to my sister Lurama. And I know that you're here, fam, so not literally here. She's in Canada, she zoomed in, but hi, I love you, I miss you. You're dope. All we got was autumn. All we got was winter. Nothing was fervent. Nothing was budding. Everything was the sickness and then my bed. Everything was all midnight, all touching myself in dark corners, hoping for release, constantly finding myself awake in mornings, despite the persistence of retreating. How to sleep forever without dying. How to sleep forever without depression. How to sleep forever, but someone notices long enough to come and wake you into spring, then summer, then everything I wanted was the birds bothering me with all their muchness outside my window. Everything was love, love my season, and still the mother sicked herself to sleep with gas and she did not wake up. I remember her every day and pretend the love of both poppies and horses and bread and milk. How I miss her. Watch from the ashes and no one rises and how men continue to breathe this air. Almost thankful for not being consumed, but to instead consume. Almost thankful for my bones, if not for the fact of my back. Depended on you. You depended on nothing but pictures. Would wish myself to end, if not for the fact my love for the birds and the bees. Wished myself into tears. Somewhere else, an ocean roars. I do not see it. I do not hear it. I brush my teeth. So markedly, I am a Sylvia Plath fanboy. If that was not like evident in all the lines I lifted from her for that last poem.
She's directly above your head.
I know, right?
Yeah.
That was the next part of the bit. Because, anyways, this next poem is another Sylvia Plath fanboy, but poem. It's called Frenzy, and part of the context of the poem is Sylvia Plath has this poem called Ariel. It's one of my favorite poems in the world. It's about her riding a horse at dawn and she has a metaphor where she compares the blackness of the horse's eyes to the blackness of well, black skin. The exact phrasing is nigger eye berries cast dark hooks, black sweet blood mouthfuls, which I use as an epigraph for one of the other poems in the book. But when I was writing this thing, I incessantly Googled class stuff and went to the Wikipedia page for Ariel, and this was the image on that page, and I was like, oh, dope, this is mine now. That wasn't quite the thought process. The thought process was, hey guys, we were on Zoom together, me and a couple of the people here, and I sent the image on like a Zoom chat while we were talking and workshopping. And then one of y'all, I think it was probably Emma, was like, yeah, that's a copy of the book. And like, yeah, that's a copy of my book. Anyways, this poem's called Frenzy, and all of that is kind of the context. Hey horse, hey friend, I like chrysalises. We need more tenderness, not less. Emerging from a foreign field, my neck in your arms, pale arms, holding a black-berried set of eyes, holding me. I loved you further than the recesses of myself into my melanin. Hey horse, stagger me downwards with a blacker blackness, event horizon me, pupil me, flat and sharp key me, eyelid me before the opening of an abad, to die pretty as lace, those poppies re-engineered for an imagination beneath my shirt, a skirt around this handling of my body, of me tying so sweetly my hair. I curl for you with a largesse unheard of by my ancestors. And I cannot resent the woman I love. The woman I love will touch my hair. My hair will touch myself when the light spills open, fresh as a disaster of lungs. To speak with the certainty of your fingers pulling out my tongue, the snow outside and the shadows of ourselves against the walls. Nothing here is racial, only our usual pleasure, igniting itself into another pale exaltation of unborn children. Divine me. It will only make me feel more real to know the pain of your mind, thinking somewhere, riding into another red sun not imagined by me. Still, the indefatigable whose beat only for every other woman who has loved me, beat only for you as I have made you here, and another horse on this horizon, holding me as myself, inking itself into dawn. I am alive, pretty. All right, last section is the spring section. And I'm gonna read the two last poems in the book for you. This one is called Poetry in America, and was also written during the end of the weird shadow semester where we all kicked off campus. And it's about a friend that I couldn't take care of, and I wish I was able to take care of her. Poetry in America. Green, firm. Your father prods at the stems above with a fruit picker pole. Mangoes from Florida, mailed from Massachusetts to Nebraska. Large letters, name me, name you. Open the battered box, think Egypt. And the purple petals you mail from Massachusetts to Vermont. Wipe down flight seats with wet wipes, sudden air from Vermont. Hear you here now in Nebraska, with spring gutters in the back of my throat, where my nose leaks, where my right ear refuses air. Hear you from the hospital where you call in Massachusetts. Let my left hand hold your throat through my phone. Hear your brain swallow you. Be sure to put them in a brown bag to ripen. I watch the faucet spill at night, the slightest turn, my fingers gummy with orange flesh and orange threads of flesh. You snap yourself in mask before air to Florida. My phone streams you. You prod at the stems above with a fruit picker pole. And what is it? Too many birds, none of you. See the hazy look of you with white sterile background before they take your phone from you. Wait for unknown number to light up during the day while scrolling through remains of eyelids burst by rubber bullets, bitter clouds of tear gas passing through cars, police cars roaring towards bodies, listening to my friend's neighbor cough bulbs of mucus into his kitchen sink. And while walking past his backyard, stare once by accident through the glass door, see it, the purest white flowing from his throat. Hear you ask again when I can see you in Massachusetts. Say my luggage just arrived from Vermont. Wonder where you get your phone. Wait for your friends to tell me what your doctors say. Reflect on synapses. Imagine you're stirring while you said just 2 days before the sterile white, how America is watching you. Realize that America is. Remember you with your hijab. Remember your hair instead. Laugh with you about mangoes, this century season of diaspora karaoke, classics from the ancestors. The lyrics read, please be with me. I don't want to sing anymore. Now read, I don't want to be alone. Place more orange flesh in my mouth when my friend's mother again asked me to eat. Taste how the sun glows from Florida, think Egypt. And what is it? Dvorak String Quartet number 12. I'm convinced that the future music of this country must be founded on what are called Negro melodies. I say this land does not belong to anyone. I let my hair kink in shapes. I try love myself in the mirror. I conjure you next to me before closing my eyes. Listen, the waves, the screaming beneath them. It carries over to you. Walk with me there. The shore, the ships, and then name what it is. Alabama, Alaska, American Samoa, California, Connecticut, Delaware, Florida, Georgia, Guam, Guantanamo Bay, Hawaii, Louisiana, Maine, Maryland, Massachusetts, Mississippi, New Hampshire, New Jersey, New York, North Carolina, Northern Mariana Islands, Oregon, Puerto Rico, Rhode Island, South Carolina, Texas, United States Minor Outlying Islands, United States Virgin Islands, Virginia, Washington, Philando Castile's daughter, it's okay, mommy. Philando Castile's daughter, it's okay, I'm right here with you. Philando Castile's daughter, mommy, please stop saying cusses. I don't want you to get shooted. Philando Castile's daughter, I can keep you safe. The last poem in the book is called Clarity, which is somewhat of an ironic title because half of the poems here were just weird prose poems that I couldn't make sense of, but I like them, so like fuck it. But this is like one of the few poems in the book where it's like in couplets. It makes sense. It's structured, yeah. And it's like another like kid poem, a kid I was teaching like after I finished teaching, and it was a summer, and I ran into him while walking around in Cambridge, and my heart burst in a good way. Clarity is difficult. Resisted. To illustrate, I was riding my bike and got hit by a car. Was it a sunny day or a cloudy day? And which do you like best? It was a cloudy day. I ran the red light. No angel appeared about a knife in my hand meant to end a small life. Only a physics I plainly miscalculated. And my eyes opened, seconds later, with my body lying on the road. So it will continue, I thought, this plainer knowing that this life is not my life, is not my parents' life, is only the plainest organization of molecules made into my feelings about suns or clouds and thinking endlessly which you might like best and not knowing how to actually ask you. Let me tell you this instead. I saw Mahid riding his bike yesterday. I was walking towards the school I spent 9 months with. It was really him, his happiness, his body skinny and black and riding so fast with a smile that could cure a heart. Let me tell you this. I hate how much I needed his heart on another cloudy day that I walked towards the school after I cleaned my room and found a note amongst my dry sea of invoices. That little note he wrote me, knowing that I'm moving soon to New York to sit at a desk to make rich people richer and maybe siphon money away from places like the continent that I was born in and that Nahid's parents were born in. And dear Tawanda, Wakanda forever. Bye bye, I won't see you again. Hope you go to Magazine Pool so I can see you again. So I walked to Magazine Pool and felt stupid standing there. So I walked to the school playground and his bike appeared. All music is meant to be resisted anyway. It isn't natural to bring a mouth to an ear like this again, to need so urgently to tell you this again, as Wordsworth embodying children like some eager tapeworm. Our birth is but a sleep and a forgetting. I love that poem with the same distance that I love Nahid. Every day and with the distance, as someone with a mouth deciding that if no one hears them, they might die. But he recognized me while on his bike from the black brace on my left wrist, cracked numb from when I met the car. His smile was wider than my room's windows. I think I want to live too often sometimes because the terrible sound of this world can reduce itself to a smile. I hate admitting this to you, that there is nothing less complicated than loneliness, that I cannot hear you with your own voice, that to be clear is to resist with great difficulty your own ears. Thank you.
Another round of applause, please, for all three. They were so good. Thank you.
Woo!
I believe you can hang out books after.
Okay, thank you for joining us. And everyone, please move your chairs up against the wall. We have some books to sell. Bullets will be signing books.
So I have a story about Tawanda breaking his arm.
Oh, no.
Yeah, you know what story this is.
Jesus.
So like,
Is this the same break, or-
yeah, no, same one. He broke his arm, getting hit by a car, jaywalking.